Good morning. Today we'll be discussing about Open Graphics Library. So Open Graphics Library is a standard which is mainly utilized for exchange of images. So I'd like to explain this particular thing, Open Graphics Library, with the utilization of this flowchart alone. So again, you could find the explanation below. So it is available below. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain this particular standard by utilizing this flowchart alone. So here, Open Graphics Library is mainly utilized for the purpose of exchange, that is a standardization for standard utilized for the exchange of images. So OpenGL, as that's the abbreviation of Open Graphics Library. So the full functioning of this OpenGL is actually self-explanatory from this single flowchart. So as I already said, these standards will act as an intermediate between the external features and the internal features. The internal features refers to the working which is happening within the software. So here it is actually the operating system, the memory, CPU, all these things come here. And the outer system, these include the input region as well as the output regions. So let me explain the major components here. So first I'm going to explain this in the view of drawing a diagram, drawing a simple triangle. Before that, OpenGL is actually utilized mainly for still used in a very high manner for the creation of gaming softwares and all, for the purpose of image generation for your gaming softwares and all. This particular standard is very much utilized still now. Of course, we'll move on to it. So here, this region shows the memory, and these are the input regions, and these are the major processes. These these 6 steps are the major processes which is being happening within the OpenGL, within the Open Graphics Library. These things are happening. So here, this end explains the primitives, or explains the features which is available within the Open Graphics Library. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a triangle, and I'm going to fill some color onto the triangle. So this is my output, and this is going to be my output. Okay, so for drawing such a figure, for creating such an image, what I should do is I need some input primitives, or some input data has to be required. So that input data is the primitive, so it's known as the major primitives. So here these primitives could include points, lines, circle, square, rectangle, all those things could be could be considered as the primitives. So first step I'm going to do is rasterization here. So initially what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the primitives here. So these primitives are given as the input. With the help of your input devices, you're going to select the primitives for drawing a particular image. So for this case, the primitives be what? Points, 3 markers. Let it be 3 markers with 3 different color shades, one with red, one with green, and another with blue. So the first step I'm going to do is vertex processing. So as I already said, I'm going to draw a triangle. So with the help of these 3 points, or these 3 markers, what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to fix the vertex, or the vertices of this particular triangle. So that's what I've done here. So I've just created 3 vertices. Next is Next step is tessellation. So tessellation means arrangement of these primitives in an orderly manner. So tessellation means arrangement of these particular primitives in an orderly manner. So initially I have just created 3 vertices. Now again I am creating some intermediate nodes with the help of these primitives, some midpoint nodes with the help of these primitives. So I am arranging these primitives within the inner regions of the vertex. I am creating some extra nodes, so some extra nodal points have been created within the inner regions of this vertices. So that is actually tessellation. This word just means that arrangement of the primitives in a orderly manner. Next is primitive processing. So what I have done is I have utilized these much points here. Next is I am going to process the primitives such that I am going to join all the primitives in a good manner. I am going to create a proper outline with the help of these primitives. I am going to connect all the primitives in an orderly manner in order to get a triangular shape. Next thing is rasterization. So rasterization means, of course, it means fragmentation of a particular image. So I got a triangle here. So one could ask, what's the need of creating these internal nodes and all? So these internal nodes could again help in increasing the picture quality. The pixel quality of the image could again be increased, and that could again help for the purpose of rasterization. So that could be the reason for this nodal creation of this nodal centers. You could again ask, is it possible for me to create another nodal points here? Of course, you could again create some extra nodal points, could also be created. Again, some nodal points within this region you could again create. Again, then you could again create some nodal points here. So again, if you can do that in a continuous process, such a process is known as rasterization. Of course, you are doing that. You are again dividing your particular figure into small fragments. So that is fragmentation, fragment generation. So that includes the rasterization step. Is that you first got an outline. Again, in order to you just created some nodal inner nodal points here. Again, you have created much more fragments out of that. So that is actually meant by rasterization. And here what you have done is you have given some colors to that fragments. That small fragments have been assigned with some colors, so that leads to fragment processing. So rasterized fragment processing is again a step under rasterization. So here you could give various effects within the fragments. So that is, you could give some textures, you could give some colors, and all to the minute fragments you are generated by means of rasterization. So after providing these effects, you'll go for something known as you'll go for some test. You'll go for some test in order to check whether it is being done in a proper manner. So first one is stencil test. So stencil test means in your RAM, in your random access memory, there will be certain buffers. So similar to frame buffer, we'll discuss what is actually mean by frame buffer. This frame buffer is of course available in your RAM. So this frame buffer helps you in visualizing the output as a image. So okay, before going to that, in this region, stencil test, similar to frame buffer, stencil buffer is something that's a reference point which is available within your RAM itself. So the test which is being done there is stencil test. So this will help in identifying the colors given to the fragments. This will check whether the colors provided are appropriate, or whether the value of whether the dilution of the colors, whether the colors are provided in a particular concentration as per the reference value. So these reference values will be available in the stencil buffer that is available in your RAM itself, that's available within your computer itself. So that's another test that will actually happen within your system itself. So stencil buffer test, whether the colors are provided within the appropriate scale, or whether the appropriate dilution is met. These things could be analyzed with the help of a stencil buffer. Next is depth buffer, otherwise known as Z buffer. So this could be well known to you while studying your unit 2 depth buffer algorithm and all. So Z test, this actually is utilized to utilized to visualize, or utilized to test the depth of the image. This is actually utilized for 3D cases. For the 3D cases, this depth test is utilized. So Z buffer contains Z buffer, again that's available along with stencil buffer. So this contains the reference values of the depth for the 3D purposes, for the 3D figures. So this image could be tested for that. So what depth could be provided for that particular image, so that could be identified with the help of this depth test. Next, the final one is pixel processing. Now we are just making it into a real image. So we are processing the pixel. So that pixel processing is based on the output we require. So in this pixel processing, we will do something known as alpha test and blending test. So these two are, again, alpha test is also something which utilizes the buffer values, and blending test, that will also utilize some buffer values. Okay. So first we'll just look on to alpha test. Alpha test and as well as again alpha test as well as blending test. These are actually based on testing your image based on the reference value, and alpha test is actually similar to Z buffer. It will again test the saturation of your color, similar to that stencil test, and the depth of saturation along the Z direction will again be tested by means of alpha test. So okay, again alpha test will help in identifying again the dilution along the Z direction, and the utilization of colors along the fragments. So again, this is actually for processing the test. This alpha test is similar to stencil test, but rather than testing the colors along the colors, again it will test, alpha test could be utilized to test the depth of the saturation even along the Z direction. Blending test deals with the transparency of the saturation of the color. So blending test will determine whether your image is opaque, or that will determine the transparency of your image. So these tests are being done so that there is some reference value which is already being available within the system itself. So these tests are being conducted so that a proper checking will be done whether our processing, our pixel processing, or whether the fragment processing is being within the prescribed limit or is being within the reference limit. So that is the purpose of these two tests. So this is actually the final stage, and after processing it is again directly moved on to the frame buffer. So frame buffer is something again, a buffer means a storage area that is being provided in your RAM, similar to the Z buffer, stencil buffer, all those things. A frame buffer is again something which is available in your RAM. So the major purpose of the frame buffer is to run the images one by one. So if you just run the images one by one, if you just make the images visualized on the screen one by one, that is in a continuous manner, you could attain what? You could attain video generation, or you could attain animation. So frame buffer is something which is mainly utilized in the RAM for the purpose of processing your images in a continuous manner, so that it's of course it's utilized for video generation. Or for example, in computer animation and all animation videos, for example in Tom and Jerry things, in Tom and Jerry, in that cartoon, so the the cat actually run from one position to another position. So if the cat runs from one point to another point, in both the cases, in both the position, what actually is, it will have different gestures will be provided by the cat. So in the initial stages, what the cartoonist have to do is you have to draw the cat in both the positions, so that these two images could be run in a sufficient speed, so that you could not differentiate any change from the initial to final position. That is, these images will be run in a faster way in order to attain a faster animation, so that that will make your eyes feel that the cat is actually running from one point to another. So actually these are the images which is being drawn, and these images are being run in a faster way, so that you could visualize that the cat is running from one point to another. Actually the cat is not running, it's just a image. These are just drawings, and these drawings are actually run in a continuous manner, so that will give an impression to you that the cat is running. Similarly, instead of that, that's actually the old generation animation things and all. Here frame buffers, what it will actually do is, these things will interpolate. If you know the starting point and the end point of the cat, with the help of these buffers, what could you do is you could just interpolate the intermediate position. If you know the initial point and the final point, you could interpolate the intermediate regions, so that a continuous processing or continuous running of that cat could be visualized. So that is what is being happening within the gaming softwares you utilize nowadays. Okay, so that's all about OpenGL. So these are the major processes within the OpenGL. So this is just an example of a small drawing. So this is just of course it's just an example, but what is happening inside is something very much larger, even something which you could not imagine. So in such a speed it is actually happening. The rate, actually we took nearly 20 minutes to explain this process with the help of an image, but within that 20 minutes, infinite number of these type of triangles could be drawn within the could be generated with the help of this particular OpenGL standard. Okay, thank you.